Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome back to Comedian MTG. My name is Ian. Today we're going to be covering Salt City 2, another one of our lovely Utah-based tournaments. Some of the literal healthiest cEDH scene out there is these Utah-based tournaments run by the Salt City crew. So they have these top 16 from this tournament here today. And without too many spoilers, this is a really cool top 4 with a lot of really interesting decks. So really excited to break it down today and talk about the sweet choices in this tournament. While you're here on YouTube, make sure to hit like and subscribe if you like videos like this. Make sure to check out patreon.com if you are interested in supporting the channel. We're doing some big changes over there at Patreon, and it's been really cool to make some of these new changes happen. Still rolling new stuff out. We've got merch on the way. I've contacted a very respected artist in the community to have some really cool Comedian MTG merch on the way. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in the works after coming off 2 of the busiest weeks of my career, but we are going and still pushing and doing a bunch of different stuff. So excited for all those who are here, watching the channel, supporting all that stuff. Without any further ado, let's jump on in. We're going to start off with a Sisay Tutor Chains version by Riled Up White Kid. Riled, classic Sisay brewer, has been playing the deck forever and is never afraid to innovate with this list. While this version does seem a little bit more tame than some of the versions I've seen them sleeve up in the past, is a pretty classic Sisay Tutor Chains as far as having the Aminatou, Nicol Bolas, Oath of Teferi lines in the deck. From what I can tell, yeah, there's no like Chromatic Orrery stuff, which I know Riled has worked on previously when working on this list. There's also definitely a low count of artifacts in this deck, having very minimal artifact package. Aether Vial I really like seeing in Sisay, as I think it's a really solid piece for the deck. The ability to sort of flash in your important legends or Dockside or any of those crazy important creatures for your strategy, I like a lot in Sisay. So I'm a really big fan of the Aether Vial inclusion, and I definitely think I'm going to be trying it in my own version of Sisay coming on up. We also see up here in the creature slots, we have the return of Felidar Guardian in the 99 of Sisay, as we covered in our last tournament. So Felidar Guardian in the 99 seems to be a more and more popular inclusion as we're moving forward. Also a lot more folks playing clones like Phyrexian Metamorph and stuff like that. So Sisay definitely getting some new tools. We see Kalane here, which is one of those classic Sisay cards that's in the list, outside of the list, in the list, outside of the list, popular with Sisay pilots, not popular with Sisay pilots. So we see Olivia Mobilize for War as well. That's one of the most, I don't know, Sisay inclusions that a lot of people are on that I'm the most skeptical of. I feel like they're just better options that even give you the same colors. So never been a really big fan of Olivia, but happy to be proven wrong with that one. We also see pretty classic package here. Sevinne's Reclamation, no breach style wins by any means. So Sevinne's there just to get back some of your important pieces like Aminatou or your other Planeswalkers, all of that stuff. And yeah, we start also starting to see Archdruid's Charm come up in these Sisay lists. Even though it's a triple green card in a 5-color deck, a lot of these Sisay decks are trying the charm. And, at a certain point, you just start to recognize that, like, it's a Gaia's Cradle deck. And, if it can cast a Court of Galling, it can cast an Archdruid's Charm as well. We also see a Galadriel Dismissal, which is not a very popular choice among Sisay pilots, but here being able to protect your own board, being able to protect individual creatures, or completely remove an opponent's board during their combo turn all seems to be pretty good utility for this card. We have Lucas Carter here with Is It a Deck List? It's a Niv list. We got a really cool Niv list here. No big top end backup threat. Usually you see something like a Nezahal as like a backup big Niv type effect. We also have dual caster Twin Flame lines, which is plus Heat Shimmer as well, which you don't traditionally see as much in Niv-Mizzet. We also have a Thassa's Oracle in here, and I'm wondering if there's any sort of pairings with that Thassa's Oracle. I'm not really seeing. Well, we do have Underworld Breach, which is definitely not a traditional Niv-Mizzet inclusion. So this list of Niv definitely playing a few of the non-traditional win cons that are not usually in this strategy. I'm still very surprised at the Thoracle here in this version of the deck, seeing as there's no like Paradigm Shifter or Thought Lash or anything like that. So this deck definitely has the Curiosity Ophidian Eye combos, very classic to Niv, as well as the tandem lookout here in the creature spot, being able to be a 1-card combo with your commander. You have the dual caster Twin Flame Heat Shimmer lines, make infinite attackers, and you've got Brain Freeze lines here too, that I assume is what the Thoracle is here for. But as I said, definitely, not the inclusion you usually see in this list, because it's usually just kind of a dead card in a lot of situations. But very win condition heavy version of Niv-Mizzet, but able to take down top 16. So congrats to our pilot. We have Mad Hazel here with Atraxa cEDH. So this is one of those Atraxa lists opting to use Walking Ballista to avoid awkward scenarios where you lose your Thassa's Oracle, which I have seen from a number of different pilots. We also have just a Heliod Suncrowned in the list to be able to combo with the Walking Ballista. Kind of a spicy choice to include this 2-card combo in here, not traditionally associated with Atraxa. There's also just randomly one Rule of Law effect in the deck, which, yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. That's just not traditionally played in these types of strategies. So Atraxa's not really like exactly a 1 spell per turn kind of deck. It's definitely a deck that can thrive under a Rule of Law because you sort of just lock down the board and beat everyone to death with an Atraxa. So kind of fascinating to see that, but obviously in a deck that wins with Food Chain, Rule of Laws can be a little bit awkward. I guess your Food Chain can always just exile the Rule of Law creature. That's a fun little synergy that's sort of playing up in this version of the deck. It's definitely not what I expect to see from Atraxa, so kind of cool innovation here with that. We also have a Sheoldred the Apocalypse in the 99 with no wheel support, so I guess just really an attrition-based Sheoldred. This, the Rule of Law Staxy stuff is kind of fascinating for me in this Atraxa space. I really wonder how often that's going to come up as a positive thing. It also shuts down your Displacer Kitten loops, though. I guess you can always bounce your Rule of Law with Teferi as well. Yeah, that's quite fascinating. I really want to know how often these things do come up, because you do shut off a decent amount of your own combos with these effects, but there are ways in many of your combos to be able to deal with it as well. So is Rule of Law effects in Atraxa the new spice? We have Charlie the Wildcard by Victory Somewhere. This is a Stella Lee wildcard list. Love to see another one of these. It's been a hot minute since they've shown up in a top 16. So we have Stella Lee here doing the Stella Lee thing, trying to cast a bunch of spells. For those who did not watch the deck on this channel, I will leave that right up there. And for those who have, obviously this is doing a lot of the Stella Lee stuff. We got the Cerulean Wisps here. We have the Shore Up, which, you know, doesn't technically draw your whole deck, but can make your Stella Lee an infinite power hexproof creature. Seems pretty decent. We should also have a Refocus here, and then Tidal Bore for the untaps, and Twitch. You know, obviously the big pulls on top of the Twisted Fealty for the actual kill on your opponents. This version not playing Time Twister, so I'm curious to hear what the backup plans. There's also a lot of the untappers in this version, things like Hidden Strings and stuff like that. To maybe go infinite with the One Ring, I'm guessing is kind of the idea there, because that's the really only other thing you untap over and over again to generate a lot of advantage. So kind of interested to see that that's an inclusion here in this list. Hope the dog barking didn't ruin that cut, because we're not doing it again. But cool to see Stella still putting up numbers. I was a little concerned with it, you know, maybe flubbing a bit after the initial inception of the deck, but here we have her, still doing the thing, still putting up results, and I'm expecting to see her for quite some time. 30 lands in this Stella list, which I feel like is higher than a lot of pilots I've seen before, so that's kind of cool to see. But also, two of those being MDFCs definitely counts for a little bit of something. We got another Atraxa with just trying to hit that 8 count by Wafflejester. This is 8 count of what? What are we aiding? Okay, we got a Hullbreaker Horror in this Atraxa list. I've always liked the Hullbreaker inclusion in Atraxa. I think it's pretty solid and also just gives you another outlet in the deck. I also like that we have Mist Hollow and Eternal Scourge in both of these Atraxas that we've seen so far in this deck. We are able to use multiple Food Chain outlets, which is nice because that means you can use your Demonic Consultations, you can use your Tainted Pact a little bit more aggressively than you could if you were just playing with one of these options. So the doubling up definitely allows for a few more aggressive play patterns, which I do think is something Atraxa needs to be able to keep up in the metagame, seeing as how things are picking up pace. Apart from that, we just got a lot of 4-colored good stuff options with Atraxa, as is per usual with this deck. You know, 28 lands, got Smothering Tides, and your Sylvans, and your Ristics, and your Mystics, and every sort of card advantage engine you could possibly see in this deck. Curious to see if there's an Emergent Zone in here. I found that when I was playing against Atraxa, the ones with Emergent Zone were really putting up solid results with the ability to add flash to all of your spells, but it does not seem like that is an option that our pilot opted into, except for with Born Upon the Wind, which is also just equally good at giving everything flash, right? Just a little bit more expensive. Well, I guess that adds blue to the cost, but also cantrips itself. So a little bit better in some respects as well. We're also seeing Destiny Spinner in both these Atraxa lists, which is not always the case with these lists. It's obviously great to protect your Food Chain wins, and definitely something to be checking out as we go forward. We got Kenny G cEDH by John Strong. This is a Kenrith the Return King list. What do we got going on here? This is a Kenrith list that is rocking the Italy in the 99. We love an Italy in the 99. This is actually really similar to the one that I worked on when I deck tagged it on the Mind Sculptors. We've got a touch of Spirit Realm in here, which makes it a bit different than that list. But yeah, this is 5-color good stuff mid-range Kenny doing a lot of the grind plans. This one, yeah, this is actually like really similar to the list that I played the other weekend. I guess this one's on like some Loris lines, which is a little bit different with Italy in the art as well. But these 5-color canvas lists, I mean, I brought it to 5 or 6 tournaments now. Really enjoy playing it. It's a very consistent deck, you know. It doesn't always feel like the most broken thing you can do at the table at every single instance of the game, but it definitely does a lot of strong stuff and it's super consistent, which I've really enjoyed about this archetype. So congrats to our pilot for bringing it. It's a solid list, and you know, competent pilots can really put up good results with it because it's a list that offers a lot of flexibility and a lot of strength. So nice job. Hey, you out there, check out ToaMagic.com. Tales of Adventure is a wonderful magic store. They vend almost every major magic event that I am very used to seeing. And on their website, you can actually even have options for them to have cards at pickup at events. So you can order things online and have them ready at location. If you use code Comedian, you can get a percentage off of your order. Y'all have been really great about supporting Toa on the channel so far, and I would love for y'all to keep doing so. They've got great prices and a crazy amount of availability. Once again, ready for you at location at major events. So check it out. We have Paramythic here with Kinnan doing Kinnan things. This is Kinnan, and get this, it's doing Kinnan things. Now, obviously this is still pre-MH3, so definitely a lot of high value Simic options here with this Kinnan list, doing a lot of the classic Simic stuff. This looks very similar. Let me check the mana base. That's how I can usually tell. Yeah, this looks very similar to Wounded Satellites. Kinnan primer list, got the Trinisphere inclusions, all of that stuff, got the Force of Vigor. So yeah, the pretty classic Kinnan list here. Nothing too super surprising to see here. Trying to win with your Basalt Monolith lines, trying to win with your Tyrants or your Hullbreaker Horror, your Nyx Bloom Ancient, etc., and generating a ton of value with Kinnan as we go along. We got Folkstar with Going Goo Goo on the Baby Mama Meter is the name of this deck. Wow. Yeah, that's a name I said for sure. We have Diada, Binder of Wills. This is a Diada list that we have not seen in a hot minute. Very cool to see Diada. It's been kind of quiet. A lot of people kind of thought the deck died out, and this seems to be like a hybrid version of Diada, which I think is pretty cool. I love seeing a little bit of proliferate synergy here to maybe boost Diada at times when your opponents have thought they've chipped her down enough so that she cannot activate. This is a very clever application because I'm pretty sure if you actually just have that Whisper card, you can activate her down tick, then immediately use that proliferate her once and then do the down tick again, which is obviously a lot of value with Diada. For those who haven't seen Diada, because it's been a hot minute since we had it on the channel, it traditionally is a turbo ad nauseum deck, which we do have turbo Naz, but calling it a turbo Naz deck is often not the appropriate description for Diada because Diada is more of a turbo Underworld Breach deck because you get Underworld Breach, Diada, and this card here, Flicker, and that basically is the brain freeze of this deck, right? Flicker allows you to refresh Diada and basically use her down tick again. You end up netting 1 card in your graveyard and 2 treasures, which is a pretty solid rate for being able to go and do an Underworld Breach thing, right? So you basically have a Breach enabler in the command zone with 2 other cards, and things get out of hand pretty quickly with this deck. So yeah, it makes sense that being not Turbo Naz officially, you kind of want a reanimation target in there. And it makes sense, right? Because Diada's immediately dumping things. Like the one thing you can guarantee from this deck is that you dump things in the graveyard, right? So it makes sense that occasionally you might want to reanimate a little something, either by putting something in there with the Goblin Engineer and then getting it back with the Goblin Welder, right? And the Bullets of Citadel, or just reanimating a creature with this Hordeling Broodlord, which they have the full Saw in Half combo here. We have the Burnt Offering to be able to sacrifice it. We've got the Saw in Half to be able to do that. But it seems like no Peer into the Abyss, so I guess you Saw in Half into a Bolus of Citadel is my thought, or maybe just an Ad Naz with 3 extra mana, which is also super viable. But yeah, cool to see Diada here. A little bit of a variation on traditional Diada, which is, you know, traditional Diada has sort of been left behind, right? So maybe the only cause of growth potentially is to innovate and play some weird cards like the Hoarding Broodlord line to make it so that this deck is able to still compete in the modern metagame. Congrats to our pilot here for doing some pretty cool stuff. We have Cobalt Caster here with Tymna Malcolm, Grave Responsibilities. This seems to be a Tymna Malcolm mid-range deck. Definitely pretty cool. There's a lot of cool stuff in this one. I'm just kind of like absorbing it all. This is, you know, pretty classic Esper Tymna Malcolm, but there's a little bit of, there's some funky graveyard things going on here. We got some Animate Deads, we've got Lively Dirge, and for those who haven't seen it, there's a lot of brewers really like this card. It's a, you know, search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard for 1 extra spree, and then for another 2 generic on the spree, you can return up to 2 creatures with total mana value 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I don't know if there's like an explicit 2-card combo that this one is going for, but there's a lot of stuff that can be acquired from this, right? Like if you have a Lotus Petal, you can just literally go Displace or Luris, right? And then start popping off there. There's also like, you know, you could do some stuff with Thoracle, I guess. That's not really anything too crazy, right? But there's some cute Lively Dirge stuff you can do here. I'm definitely curious to see if there's really something specific. I do like the idea that you can just like Delve Become Ball, which is obviously not a combo, right? But like definitely makes your opponents go, well, you gotta really rethink about those non-creature spells. But it's cool stuff. Yeah, I like the inclusion in this list. Yeah, I'm so curious because there's Sevine's Lively Dirge. Is it like an Entomb? No, there's no Entomb in this deck. So Lively Dirge feels like the really only way to put stuff in the graveyard. So this is, yeah, it's a really strangely graveyard focused version of this deck, but also all of that being said, still on Grafdigger's Cage, which I'm a little surprised by as well. So this deck's definitely running some interesting stuff. If the pilot ends up watching this video, I gotta know what I'm missing about this graveyard stuff, or if I'm not missing anything and it's just actually good generic value. I'd love to hear about that too. So if y'all know anything about this, leave it in the comments down below. TikTok by Turtle Lord 84. We got a Magda list here. Magda has been doing quite well in the current metagame. Now we're starting to see also like dual caster, Molten Duplication, and Heat Shimmer lines with Magda, which hasn't really been a thing for this deck in quite some time. We got Return the Favor here, the perfect anti-Dockside card. This card is quite strong at being able to basically snipe your opponent's Dockside ability on the stack and then activate it with Magda. This version's got some forks in it. We love to see a good fork, Reverberate, Return the Favor in a cEDH deck. We love that. It's a Warping Whale too, which definitely is not a card I expected to see in a list. And then Dead and Gone, which is, you know, some classic mono red bounce spells, which is obviously a bit of a color pie break, but we love that. And then, you know, got some classic options here with Magda. We got Null Rod variant of Magda, always pretty solid at being able to do some crazy stuff. We got the One Ring, which I actually haven't seen in a lot of Magda lists, surprisingly enough. And we got our Blood Moon package here, which is a pretty classic staple of the Magda suite. But yeah, definitely some really cool stuff here with this Magda build. Some stuff I was not expecting to see in this list, but some stuff that's doing some really cool innovations with this archetype. Magda pilots love this deck. They put in so much work into making Magda a viable cEDH strategy, and you see the work pay off. Honestly, it's such a cool deck, and I love that it's kind of having its day in the sun in the metagame at the current moment, because the meta is lined up pretty well for Magda to thrive. Got another Sisay. Is this a kissing deck by Behemoth Dan? I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, but this is a Sisay mid-range deck doing some interesting stuff here. Is this? No, okay. I saw Samut and assumed this could potentially be Sisay Gigantha, but it luckily is not. Definitely curious as to the Samut, however you want to say it, inclusion. I guess you can untap some of your dorks here with this one, right? But it's like, as opposed to other versions of this effect that don't cost a mana to do that, this one does not do it for free, right? So I don't know how much I feel about the Samut and the 99 of this Sisay variant. We got another Kalane here, as I said, definitely not a typical choice. Love seeing Aven Interrupter in this deck. I think, you know, as far as you wanting to develop your plan, hit them with some atypical interaction. They might think you have a Sisay interaction up, but they're like, you know, they're calling out the legends in your deck. You can't activate and get this thing. Hit them with an Aven Interrupter, kind of spell on a stick. Good anti-breach card as well, kind of solid. So I love seeing that here. I love seeing that card in general more. You got a Flowering of the White Tree and a Vraska joins up. I was literally talking with somebody the other day about how Vraska joins up gives the deck like resilience, right? Because when, you know, you get your board blown up, Flowering of the White Tree does the exact same thing, right? Even if you get your board wiped, you replay Sisay and you already have a higher activation than you would traditionally have in the deck. So these cards definitely, I think we'll be seeing a little bit more play, especially as Sisay becomes more of a deck that receives a good amount of hate. These cards being able to, you know, survive board wipes and all that stuff is pretty solid for that. We have Prieston with a horny black deck. Oh, because Glint horny. Okay. Yep. No, well done. You got me. This is Malcolm Vial Smasher. It's a pretty classic Malcolm Vial, in the sense that it's sort of played in the traditional way, where we have the Vial Smasher plan being, a lot of people debated for a while whether it was the mid-range Malcolm Vial that was the better one, or if it was going to be just Glinthorn Buccaneer and a Grixis Turbo deck, and this deck definitely opting for the and a Grixis Turbo deck version. We do have the Lively Dirge stuff here, again with this version of this deck. I think it's pretty solid with Glinthorn Buccaneer, able to basically be a 1-card assembler of that combo, which is kind of nice for this deck. And then you get a lot of good options here, some free interaction with these guys. You got your Ad Naz lines, Intuition here, which I don't know if I love Intuition in this deck. I think it's not fantastic because you don't really have a way to break it like you do in the white versions of these Intuition decks. So not a huge fan of that here, to be honest. And then the rest of this is just a lot of that good Grixis value nonsense. We love it. Before we get into our top 4, I want to remind you that we do coaching here at Comedian MTG. If you want to take that step up in your cEDH game from someone who has more wins with more diverse decks than any other cEDH pilot, and for someone who loves working with their clients, you can find me over at comedianmtg@gmail.com, at comedianmtg on Twitter and Instagram, or comedian_mtg over on Discord. All those places are linked down in the description below. You can feel free to reach out to me at any of those places. We have a lot going on over here at Comedian MTG, and if you are interested in taking that next step up in your cEDH gameplay, or if you are trying to just get into the format, find out what decks are for you, any of those things, find out your next step in the politicking of cEDH, you can reach out to me at any of those places we mentioned before. Love to have you. Without any further ado, jump back into the top 4. We have our first of our finalists, could be anyone, with Sisay cEDH. This is a Sisay cEDH list. Unlike the previously mentioned list, we do not see a Felidar Guardian in this version of the deck. We got a Rocco here, which, in and out depending on the Sisay pilots, but definitely solid for being a 1-card assembler of a combo. Twin Shot Sniper is definitely a piece I'm not traditionally familiar with in this deck, but pretty solid at being able to be an uncounterable removal spell, as well as, I think the uncounterable removal for Oppo is probably why you see this, because you can basically remove an opposition agent and go for the win without putting anything on the stack. If I was a betting man, that's what I assume we would be seeing that for. I know people have even talked about whatever the split second 2 sudden shock as well in this deck. So this list definitely seems like it's packed full of opposition agent hate, which I'm assuming with Resculpt and Get Lost and Abrupt Decay that's I feel like maybe I've sussed out the reason that Twin Shot is in there. This version of Sisay also on Birthing Pod and Occultist of the Absolute. No Chromatic Orrery, so just Cultist into, is there Diada in this version? No, just Occultist in this version, generic value Cultist, which is kind of cool. And then, as I mentioned, there is a Birthing Pod in here, which I don't think there is a traditional Birthing Pod line that I could call out of this deck. So seems to be just kind of like a value Birthing Pod, which a little strange to me because that's kind of what your commander does, but I guess this is for the cases in which you really lose Sisay a good amount. This list does seem like it's trying to prepare against like a ton of creature removal, which would make a lot of these choices make a little bit more sense. Also, Trouble in Pairs, not traditionally seen in Sisay list. A lot of card advantage in this version of the deck. Some of it not traditionally included. So congrats to our pilot in the top 4, and for some interesting Sisay includes. I'm definitely curious about the Birthing Pod if you're the pilot or know the pilot. Leave a little info in the comments below. We have We're Going Nowhere Fast by Joe Bass. That's very good, very powerful. This is Armix Jeska, and I feel like I've seen a variant of this deck in the past. I gotta check the land count because I feel like it's gonna tell me so much about this. Yeah, it's a 25 lander here on Blood Moon. This seems to be like a Rakdos. Yeah, we've covered this deck once before, or a similar one. This is like Rakdos Turbo Artifacts, right? Yeah, if we look at the instance, there's absolutely no ad nauseum in this list, but we do have a Bolus of Citadel over here in the artifacts. We've also got Clock of Omens and Aether Flux lines, but we've got like Winter Orb. Whoa, this list is wild. We got a Basilisk Collar in here, which I'm very surprised by. I'm not really sure what the inclusion here of the Basilisk Collar is, but yeah, we got a bunch of like value artifacts like Pithing Needle and Soul Cauldron. We got our Conqueror's Flail for defensive purposes. And Winter Orb I found to be super ineffective in the current metagame, so I'm kind of surprised about that one. But I guess maybe if your deck is being hyper proactive, you're able to stop your opponents pretty aggressively with it, question mark. We do have breach lines here. So a little bit of the stacks kind of contradicting some of the breach, but as I mentioned, like Tangle Wire and stuff like that are ones that you can like kind of play around. Got a Crack the Earth here. Just each player sacks a permanent. This is kind of Anger here, giving all your creatures haste when you discard it off of Armix. Got a Rose Cutthroat Raider. We love to see one of those in the deck. Yeah, this deck is like big, crunchy Rakdos. Whoa, okay, we got a Caustic Bronco and an Inti. Inti kind of makes sense with the synergy with Armix, but we got 2 Dark Confidant style effects. We got a Ballista in here that I don't really see. I guess Ballista and Obnix plus Agatha's. So I guess there's just a Agatha's Obnixilis combo in the 99 of this deck. On top of the Aetherflux Reservoir Ballista Citadel stuff, we got some Mayhem Devil shenanigans. I mean, we got a Valky in here, which I actually traditionally think is kind of underplayed, period. But I mean, wow, this is cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff in this deck, and I'm all about it. It is a Karn. Yeah, this is definitely like Turbo Ballista Citadel, it feels like, and then the rest of it's like grindy Rakdos value engines. Yeah, this is the most down my alley kind of deck I've ever seen. It's so crunchy and weird, and I'm a big fan. That's so cool. This deck made the top 4 of a pretty big event. It was 73 players at the end. So yeah, congrats to Joe Bass for this deck that I'm pretty sure we've not only seen once but twice in this series. Very cool stuff. Nothing more to say, but just crazy cool deck. We have Kasolson here with Turning to the Dark Side. I believe a reference to the fact that they're just playing pretty generic blue farm. This is almost like textbook blue farm. Got a bunch of value engines, got a bunch of interaction, playing the Fire Covenant version of the deck. Got a Windfall in here, which is not always the same choice, but you know, the 13, 14 creatures, bunch of interaction, blue farm. Yeah, this is, they have fully turned to the dark side, but congrats to Katie Olsen. This is still obviously a good achievement to be able to make top 4 of a very large event. But yeah, definitely not much to say about this blue farm variant for sure. Now, what there is a lot to say is about And Another Thing by Crash Mitch 26. This is the winner, a Borborygmos and Fblthp deck takes down this 73-person cEDH tournament. Now, if you're like me, you know exactly what Borborygmos and Fblthp does. No, legit, this is so cool to see this deck. Basically, the TLDR of Bobo Fibble is that it is an outlet for infinite casts of this commander, right? So it has the ETB, I guess infinite enter the battlefield. So enter the battlefield, it attacks, draw a card, then you may discard any number of land cards. When you discard 1 or more land cards this way, Borborygmos and Fblthp deals twice that damage to target creature. The TLDR is you don't have to do any of that discard stuff I said. So it can just be 6/5, enter the battlefield, draw a card. I guess you can also put it on top of your library, 3rd from the top. That part I don't think ever comes up. But basically, if you can cast this infinitely, you can draw your entire deck. It's also just like creature removal on a stick, which I don't think is irrelevant in the current format. I've seen a lot of these, like, we literally just saw an Armix deck top this tournament, right? So creature removal on a stick is not irrelevant by any means. I like that we have Wrenn and 6 here to pick up the lands that you discard to your commander's ability. Kind of fun tech. And we got some explosive stuff. We got some Orcish Lumberjack, some Tinderwalls. So this is clearly not a Bobo Fibble deck that is trying to mess around. This deck is going fast. We got Deadeye for Dockside loops. We got Hullbreaker for looping Dockside and infinite artifacts. We got Temur Sabertooth for looping Docksides. We got Squee here paired with our good friend Food Chain. I don't think we have a Mist Hollow Griffin in here. So I guess one Food Chain enabler, but the best one that there is, truly. Got a Vexing Shishker to protect our win. I mean, this deck is clean in the sense that it's like, got some card draw, got some disruption, And then bunch of stuff that's pushing for a win, like tutors for a win, tutors for a win, tutors for a win, tutors for a win, goes, protects the win, you know, tutors for a win. This is an explosive deck. Love seeing a good Born in the deck. We had a crop rotation in there as well. So crop rotation for Emergent Zone, also a viable line in this deck. So this is kind of sick in the sense that it's like, we're doing the teamer stuff, but I see there's a lot of sneakiness in here. A lot of the ability to be able to be like, okay, we're popping off, instant speed, crack the thing, go, you know, play food chain, instant speed, Bobo Fibble, draw my whole deck. I like it. This is cool. This is some cool stuff. You know, a lot of the people will associate this with like traditional teamer dockside loop stuff, but like, I think that it's got some really cool synergies here. I like that it can Eldritch Evolution into Hullbreaker or Deadeye or Consphinx, right? A lot of cool value plays here. This is a quirky, cool list. Definitely doing a lot of cool stuff, and I love seeing this instant speed stuff. I think that's kind of what you need to be doing here in the format right now, and being able to lean on that part of the strategy is really solid. But I see a Birthing Pod in here, so I'm guessing that's also just to pod the Bobo Fibble into the Sphinx or the Deadeye. Yeah, this is some cool stuff. I think it's just like using Teamer for how you should be using Teamer, and I'm all about it, for sure. Now, I think the question might come up is like, how does this fare against like a Teamer Dargo thing? And that's a good question. I guess you get Food Chain on top of that, right? So that's a viable answer to that question. But, and the removal on a stick compared to a Thrasios rate, which it's pretty easy to argue, it's pretty bad at this point in the current metagame. But very cool to see Bobo Fibble take down in tournament. Cool to see some of the inclusions in this deck. Love the sort of like turbo creature strategy. Really cool stuff, and I'm definitely all about it. So congrats to our pilot on taking down this whole tournament, and that's pretty cool stuff. Thank you all for watching our Salt City Breakdown. Remember, hit that like button, that subscribe button, free, so easy to do. The little bell tells you whenever we post these videos. Check out cEDH Coaching. You can take that next step up for your game if you're interested in helping support the channel, including cEDH Coaching tier on Patreon. There is patreon.com/communitymtg. You can get videos early. You can get your names in the credits. You can do secret channels in our Discord. All of that stuff is available at patreon.com/communitymtg, as well as, you know, sometimes we do cool stuff in there, like entries for giveaways for badges for Vegas and whatnot. So thank you all for watching this video. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Chop.